Hey everybody, how are you? It's Freddie Ewan, live, the TPFFKAL show. We got a really big show for you this evening. We got Joseph Murray, the general manager of Donks4LIFE. He's also the president of the Players Union coming on this evening. We're going to talk to him for a little bit. This is going to be our third live interview. Looking forward to talking to Joe. Joe is a great friend of mine. I grew up with the guy. First person that I would ever call if I was arrested. First person I would ever eat if my group was trapped in the Himalayas. I love this guy, though, Joe Murray. He's a great guy. We're going to shout out to him right now, give him a call, and see if we can get him on the line. Just got to remember how to do this exactly. All right, we are sending the text out to him. He should be hopping on in just a couple minutes. Joe loves to talk, so it might be a long interview. I love to talk too, which makes us such a great connection. News today, Jonathan Taylor granted a trade from the Indianapolis Colts. That's going to be interesting. Where is Jonathan Taylor going to go? Joe Murray.
Freddie,
how are you, Joe?
I'm better now that we're connected, my friend. I love your T-shirt, my man.
Excellent. You got to represent the Wyoming ladies, you know?
Always. Renee and Katie Murray, I'll tell you.
I wish they all could be Wyoming.
We all can't be that blessed, but yes, indeed.
So what I was just talking about, Joe, I want to welcome you to the TPFKKL show. Joe has a dual role for the TPFKKL. He is the GM of the Donks4LIFE, and he's also the attorney for the GMs. Whenever there's an issue with something, Joe intervenes and gets involved. Before we get to any questions, Joe, I was just talking, if you didn't see, Jonathan Taylor had just asked for a trade from the Indianapolis Colts, the first pick last year. What are your thoughts on that?
I just read that, too, about 10 minutes ago as I was catching up on the news today. And I thought that was a pretty significant development for him as a 24-year-old running back star. Obviously the Colts, but most relevant for us for the TPFFKAL, given I know he's on the block, or he's going to be open for our September 6th trade draft in Vegas. So I was about to dig into the data, and I'm looking forward that you brought this right out of the gate. Let's get right to it, Freddie.
Taylor was the first pick last year in a lot of drafts. He spent a lot of time injured. The first pick this year looks like the consensus is Justin Jefferson, who you had last year. He brought you a couple wins. I know you kicked the shit out of me the first game. I think Jefferson had, 5 touchdowns and, outscored everything. You got rid of him this year. You traded him for cap room and for Isaiah Pacheco. Tell me how that decision came about, and tell me why you made that decision.
Yeah, I'm glad you got right to it. Let me just say it is an honor to be with you, first and foremost, here on the Freddie Ewan show on the daily TPFFKAL. Big shoes for me to fill, given that the J-Doc Klusky, BMAC, the Virginia Sea Dogs kicked off your interview here, and then to follow up with the commish. I mean, I'm really in an envious, tough spot here. Those were great interviews. So I'm honored to be on your show. And then let's get right to the Jet. JJ, Justin Jefferson, man, he was such a great pickup for me 2 years ago, and he's been an absolute stud. This was a head decision. My heart was with him. I wanted to keep him. He would have been $40 or $39, actually maybe $44. And obviously, as you just noted, most draft boards have him a lot higher. It just seemed like it made sense. I mean, I came into this year with $166 in budget cap, and I felt like getting some cap trade money and a former Rutgers alumni, Pacheco, it was just too appealing when James offered me up there. I felt like it was a good move to make. I wish him well, but I'm excited about some having Pacheco from Rutgers. That's my alma mater. That's our home state, University, as we know, the Garden State, Mr. Freddie, which I'm sure we're going to wax poetic a little bit more.
And Pacheco came on, strong at the end of the year. He's in, probably the best offense in the NFL, which is going to help him. There's, the thing about Kansas City is, they can pass the ball a lot, but they don't really have a lot of number one wide receivers. And I think Pacheco is going to get, his share of a lot of goal line work, a lot of touchdowns. The other thing that you did is you took a chance on the Cleveland Browns this year. You're sticking with Deshaun Watson, who was, he missed most of the year. You had him on your team as, pretty much a reserve. You got some value for him starting him. You traded me. You added his number one receiver in Amari Cooper, who had a great year last year with little quarterback play. I know you're a Steelers fan, but you're going to be, you're going to have an interest in for the Browns to throw the ball a lot, I guess.
I'm a big believer in second chances, and with what's going on with Mr. Watson in the civil and criminal proceedings last year, not a good thing for him, his family, those affected. But as a pure strategist, I was watching him holding him for $1 for this year, for to be a really equitable, or I should say a steal for $6 and a starting quarterback where they're going to throw, he's going to run. And as you brought up, swinging a deal with you for his number one wideout just was I'm excited about that for him to team up with Amari. So let's have him get full 16 games, Lord willing, if he's healthy. And despite my allegiance to the Steelers, I think, in fantasy, I'm in a good spot with Mr. Watson there.
Awesome. I think, Watson is they got a great offense. They got Chubb there. They got a great offensive line. Watson didn't play that good last year, but he really, it's hard to play well after you miss the first 13 games or whatever. You're on a whole new team. So, I think with training camp under him, I think Watson's probably going to do great things. He was, a great quarterback with the Texans. So, me and you are from the same area. Practically, you're from Seagirt, New Jersey. I'm from a town over Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey. We grew up in New York Jet clubs. Everywhere you go down the Jersey Shore, it's New York Giants, New York Jets. I'm an Eagles fan because my stepfather is from Philly. How the hell did you get to become a Pittsburgh Steelers fan?
Yeah, no, this is a total rational question that anyone, when we're talking football, my Steelers fan, it doesn't add up. In fact, it's kind of in an interesting way, an analogous to the Virginia Sea Dogs GM, my good buddy, my neighbor, right down the street, right down here. Look down the window. He lives down there in front. And when you asked him in his interview, how did he grow up, or how did he come to be a Seahawks fan growing up in West Virginia? Well, it's a similar. It doesn't make sense, just by looking at where I'm from. But the quick story that I think I'll make a little bit longer, since you asked me on this Steam podcast, is I grew up, as you mentioned, a few miles down the street from you in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Seagirt, it's in central New Jersey. It's really center of the state geographically, with those loyalties that you just listed. Giants, Jets. The Philly market is a little bit south of us. And, the reality is the high school that you and I went to, Manasquan High School, Go Blue, during the time I was there from 90 to 93, powerhouse high school football program, just, state champions, a lot of great players, dominated the school spirit. And this might come as a surprise to most folks who've known me in the last 10 years, but back then I was, not even 100 pounds soaking wet. Maybe, I think I graduated senior year. I was maybe 138 pounds. Baseball player, basketball player, and not a football player. And frankly, the football scene was so, in my opinion, just dominated the whole fabric of the school socially and, in so many ways that it kind of put me off a little bit, to be honest with you. I was such a big focus that, and I wasn't on the team, and I had a lot of friends like you, Freddie. We had a lot of mutual friends, but I just wasn't part of that scene at all. And through college and even young adulthood, frankly, I couldn't stand NFL football or college football. I didn't get the infatuation with Saturdays or Sundays. Couldn't really relate to it. And in fact, I'm here today as a fantasy football apologist and NFL phenom fan because of my wife. We were engaged to be married in 2005. And let's see, let me get this timing right. Yeah, so March of 2005, I proposed to my wife of 18 years. And we were planning our wedding, and she emphatically told me within a couple of days of being engaged, she said, "Well, you're going to have to get to know Russ." Now, Russ was at that point the fiance to Katie's maid of honor. I said, "Fine." She said, "We're going to be best friends. You got to get to know Russ." Shortly afterward, Russ, a couple months later, invited me to his fantasy football snake draft. And I lamented to Katie. I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Honey, I know you're asking me to get to know this guy, Russ, and I seems like a nice guy, but he asked me to dedicate an entire Saturday in September to come up with $25 to go, have some barbecue and draft fantasy." I said, "I don't even want to go. It's going to be all day Saturday. I have $25. But I committed to her. I get to know him, and it was a nice offer. I showed up. This was 2005, right? And I have the number one, as luck would have it, I had the number one pick in the snake draft. And I'm sitting next to Russ at his house. And I said, "Can you help me draft?" He goes, "Sure." He goes, "There's this guy, Sean Alexander. He's the running back for the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's going to have a good year." So I took him. Lo and behold, he breaks the NFL record with 28 rushing touchdowns, whatever, blows it up. I go to the Super Bowl that year in Detroit again with my Steelers against the Seattle Seahawks. I get front row seats. This is all like kind of a blended story. Like my job at the time, needing the Super Bowl. And my wife, in a matter of 5 months, thinks I'm a fraud. She's like, "Wait a minute, you told me you hated football, NFL football, and now you can tell me like the third wide out on the seat." I'm like, "Honey, I did hate football, but I just listened to you to get to know Russ, and here we are. I drafted Sean Alexander. I was born in Pittsburgh, and now I'm going to the Super Bowl." So this was, about 17, 18 years ago. And ever since, I've just been such a fan of fantasy and NFL football. So there you go.
That's a great story. That's a story unlike a lot of people, I would say.
Right.
Who's Katie's favorite football team? Does she have a favorite NFL team?
She can't stand football. And her quick story is grew up in Casper, Wyoming, where, Renee knows where that's at. So do you. And it's, borders Colorado. So the whole market was Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
And she has one brother, and her father are just rabid Denver Bronco fans. And she couldn't get, the TV was taken away from her all Sunday. Right. And that has scarred her for life. She's like, "I can't stand football." And she thought when we were dating and engaged that it was kind of, an attractive component of me that I wasn't a football fan. But I blew that out of the water shortly after we got engaged. So it's kind of funny.
Now it's not. Football becomes an addiction. And, I feel that, football was never, I was a big basketball player growing up. I got the one tattoo, if you could see it, it's Mike
I remember that.
Flying off a basketball. I got this when I was 17 in Point Pleasant Beach. So, played freshman football, played a little bit my sophomore year, but then, I was just a huge and football was always like a second love. But, I just think as, you get older, it almost grows on you, and fantasy football has just turned into, such a, great thing to play. It's a good camaraderie amongst everyone. It's like, and the great thing about the TPFFKL is, it's pretty much a year round, there's a lot of things that you need to do consistently to, league wide,
it's become so special. And, Brian and Rich brought this up just too, I think, and you've, emphasized it's just the camaraderie so special. Each GM brings so much to the table. It's becoming a more serious, thoughtful league 12 months a year. And I love it, man. I just love Brian brought this up a couple of weeks ago. he just said over text, he's like, I'm surprised you're this engaged. And I said, I'm surprising myself that I think I was texting him on a Saturday, 3 different scenarios that he should consider whether to keep Stephon Diggs or keep who he ended up keeping the Los Angeles. Remind me, Michelle. Yeah, and I don't know why I was thinking so deeply about it. And he's like, I said, man, I'm surprising myself how I'm getting into this, but it's just tapped into some enjoyment that I can't explain, and it's just such a good back and forth. So yeah, call it an obsession.
So a couple tough questions for you now, Joe.
Shoot, my man.
So Donks for Life have missed the playoffs the first 2 years. How is that going to change this year?
Well, I think, like I was describing, I'm surprising myself in how much I actually care about this draft. The first couple of years, I mean, speak frank, is Donks for Life, as most everybody should know, is born out of our other incredible passion / obsession, No Limit Hold'em poker. That Donk House, born out of the COVID pandemic, that turned into just weekly Friday, Saturday night poker with pretty much every GM in our league, plus about 15 other guys. That just became so special for me, and having a role of administering tremendous joy, competition, camaraderie on poker. And, that coincided with Rich Michele, commissioner, deciding to open up a new fantasy league, for football. And I explained to y'all, Freddie, about my baptism in fantasy football with the Sean Alexander 2005 incredible run. There, then I played in some unserious leagues. You and I reconnected after having not connected for probably 20, 30 years. It's just all these confluence of events with fantasy football getting more ingrained in my life, and I didn't know what to make of it at the first 2 years, really, about free agent budgets, waiver wire, whatever, man. I'm like, maybe I don't have enough time in my week to care. And the first 2 years, though, I was competitive-ish. The last 2 weeks of the season, maybe making the playoffs. Obviously having some marquee players like Justin Jefferson, we talked about, just kept me engaged over text and wanting to compete. But this year, I just really believe I'm going to be much more engaged in the Vegas planning. A couple of weeks out, I'm already thinking about strategy. I didn't have the first 2 years any kind of thought or plan going into the draft other than maybe the night before. That's going to change, and I'm already excited about my keepers and believe we're coming to play this year. Get ready, Donks for Life.
I always compare fantasy football a lot to poker, because it's you have to make a lot of decisions, and but at the same time, that those decisions that you make, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And sometimes you can make the best decisions that are on paper, and the outcome can be something completely different. Especially with a head-to-head league, you can put in the 12 best guys, and they can all shit the fence, that week, and you can lose to 12 scrubs. So, there is a comparison between, fantasy football and poker. And I think that, you get what you put into it. If you study football, you look on the waiver wire and you get engaged and you make trades, you're going to put yourself in a chance to do better. But if you're sitting there, if you're not, talking about trades, if you're not picking up any free agents, the outcome is you're probably not going to do well.
You know what? You just triggered a thought on me about something different. I agree wholeheartedly. The No Limit Hold'em, especially freeze out tournaments, where you have a set capital, or you got chip strength, and equating that to your budget. You're dealing with decisions in fairly real time, right? With the free agent budget, or the keeper deadline was key, is you had to make some strategic moves. And, the example I'll give that's much different from me not caring as much last couple of years was, I was pretty much set with my keepers, Freddie, to be frank, about 3 weeks before the keeper draft. And then, I just started, analyzing some data, talking with other esteemed GMs like you over text. And I mentioned Brian and the Bowsers of the world, particularly Commissioner Rich, as we all know, is very active over trying to make deals. And literally, like, I don't know, that the day of the deadline, I started realizing, I'm like, look at all these tight ends, man. I'm like, the top 4 tight ends were going to be kept. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm sitting here with Dallas Goedert, who arguably is probably the top 5 or top 6 tight end in my analysis. And he was a little bit of a reach if I kept him at $18. I'd plan on keeping Dawson Knox, who, I probably think you would likely agree is in the 2nd or 3rd tier, maybe even lower 3rd tier. But he was going to be cheaper. He's going to be about $11 to keep. Goddard was going to be $18 to keep. And it was right then I said, look, I just think, because the top 4 are already off the market in keeper land, guy like Dawson or Dallas Goedert, he's probably going to be overinflated on draft day. I mean, there might be a run, even Knox. So I pulled the trigger at the last minute, kept Dallas Goedert, and said, he's at $18. He probably might go for that or more, 2022. Plus, I also saw like an article that Goddard made some public statements that he wants to be the first, or there could be, 3 1,000-yard receivers on that Jalen's thrown to, and Dallas being one. So anyway, that's an example that I'm just looking at things a lot differently, more strategic. I'm growing. I see the experience of Pantheon Cup winners, 2-time GM awards like you, who put a lot of time and effort in. I said, it's time to do some studying, Joe Moo, and Donks4Life's coming to play, baby.
We just got to we gotta share that energy over with our buddy Doug, and then we'll have a 12-man competitive league, I think. So,
Douglas, yes, sir.
One last question. I think I've asked everybody this. No one has given me a straight answer yet. If you were going to pick a winner this year of the TPFFKAL besides Donks4Life, who would the winner be?
Jimmy. 100% Jimmy. That guy, let me tell you, he's so mercurial. He's been so quiet this offseason on text. I can't get, he engaged a little bit with me 2 weeks ago, but his last 2 drafts have been stellar. I don't think there's much disagreement in the TPFFKAL league that he's been an incredible drafter. He's made the playoffs 2 years. My vote's for him, my brother. I'm giving you a straight answer. I love that guy personally, and I think he's gonna put the Jets on this year. But we're gonna be nipping at his heels.
We've been trying to get Jimmy on the show, but we haven't gotten any response from his PR team yet. But we're still working on it. We're going to try to get everyone on here.
Well, so, look at Facebook. His kid started school today, and his wife, I think, is the PTA president. God bless her. So he's probably been really engaged on the family stuff.
Hey, fantasy football comes first, man.
You said it.
Oh, thanks so much for coming on the show. You were
Freddie. Thank you.
Great job. Looking forward to getting, I think Brian's up to like 55 views so far. And I hope you can beat Brian out. Brian's so far the king of the TPFFKAL, but that was a great interview. You did a great job, brother. Looking forward.
I'm really honored you had me, Freddie, honestly, and I'm proud of you. Thank you for investing in this. I call it the best fantasy football league in America. And I know the commissioner agrees, and I hope all who are viewing agrees. And it's in large part to your commitment and your engagement with all the GMs, and we're proud of you, brother. Thank you.
I just like to talk a lot of shit, so.
Thanks again, Freddie.
Thanks so much, brother.
See you, buddy.